Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, we can't say that the Flames haven't made things interesting for themselves over the last few games. Hello and welcome to Game Over Calgary. My name is Conrad Krausert, and oh boy, is it a different vibe in the studio tonight after the Flames take down the New York Islanders to finish up the road swing, finish up this swing through Toronto plus the three New York area teams. As I turn around and I'm going to fix Johnny and Monty here. I'll eventually get that thing poster boarded. But anyways, once again, my name's Conrad Krausert. Pleased to join you after the matinee Calgary Flames game. And I think there was more than a few hearts and throats watching the closing of that game. And oh boy, did the home cooking come through for Matt Coronato tonight or what? Before we go into the recap and go any further, gotta start it off with the paying for this portion. Shift into hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. So, and as I say this, remember, they're on a little bit of a hiatus, trying to figure out their schedules, trying to see how Tomboy Max can meet up with Daphne Malboeuf. But still, really cool show. Go back and watch their archives. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that drives debate, makes you think, and more. Join Tomboy Max, Vax Van Oud, Daphne Malboeuf, and Kevin Larmé for your fill on the hockey world. You can watch it on YouTube at the Game Over Network channel or subscribe on your podcaster catcher of choice. Or you can head on over to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. The Calgary Flames take down the surging Islanders in a battle that is important for wildcards on both coasts as the Flames win in overtime. Your score 4-3. As I said a little bit earlier, boy, oh boy, is this the evolution of Matt Coronato that Flames fans were hoping to see. Like, we all knew he had the shot. That was the thing coming into his NHL career. Is everybody and their dog who had watched college hockey knew that the incredible release that Matt Coronato had. And we're finally starting to see the other pieces of his game evolving to match that. And this is the biggest example we can show. So, as per usual, we'll start with a recap. We'll talk a little bit more about Matt Coronato and some other players who I think stepped up huge after the loss to Toronto. And then they really put an emphasis on the broadcast on this, but I'm going to also throw a little shine on how the lineup changes have helped this team to not solely rely on one line. But we'll start it off with the scoring breakdown. Matt Coronato didn't wait long to score in the closest NHL rink to his birthplace. Only 36 seconds in, kind of walks around with possession, finally fires it home and uses that elite release to beat the Islanders goaltender, which I know it was the backup goaltender, and they were talking about how what's his name? Let's see if my brain actually functions today. As we all know, if you've been here longer than most, that it doesn't. Hogberg. I thought it was Hoberg, but I was like, Kelly Rudy was saying it Hogberg, but yes, it is Hogberg. Beats him within the first 40 seconds, and sometimes that'll lead to the floodgates opening and Hogberg falling apart with a injured Ilya Sorokin as the backup tonight. But that wasn't the case, as we will see as we go on. But good on Matt Coronato using Mum's meatballs, as was talked about on the broadcast more than once, to power him to one of his best games as a Flame, but opening up the scoring with his 19th of the year. Yeah, just good individual effort, kind of pushes on Hogberg, forces the turnover, and just a good smart play by Huberdeau to bring it off the boards. Of note, he saw that top line starting out with the starting pairing, but he saw as soon as that puck pushed into the offensive zone, a change on the defense, and Braden Paul and Joel Hanley coming over the boards, they get the plus. We'll talk more about the defense and how this team had to kind of shuffle that all together last minute as we go on. But first period did not end in the Flames' favor, as Bo Horvat did manage to get on the score sheet himself. Assists to my least favorite NHL player, possibly of all time, but certainly active, Tony DeAngelo, and Holmstrom on the play. Just kind of a broken play. Flames kind of lose track of the puck, and Bo Horvat has the rebound come right onto his stick. Not much Dan Vladar, who got the start today, could do about that one. And then a player that I thought was an EA-generated player, but apparently is a full-time NHLer, Mark Gatcomb, put the Islanders up again. Just a nice little snapshot finds its way through Dan Vladar. I think that's one Vladdy would like to have back. Assist to Seplikov and Dobson on that one. And I don't think that's necessarily Vladar's fault. You're not necessarily expecting that kind of shot off a fourth liner, but we have to remember, my dad was talking to me about this, let's call it just coming out of the pandemic. You have to remember that these are the 1% of the 1%ers. Even a fourth liner in the NHLer is better than 90% of the population. Well, 99% if my statistic is to be believed. So even a fourth liner on a good day can beat any goaltender in this league. They're still on the roster for a reason. They're still NHL players. You have to keep remembering that, even if you think they're an EA-generated player like I did. But Flames head into the first intermission down 2. And that second period, only one goal, and it was Matt Coronado scoring his 20th of the season at home. Assist once again to Huberdeau and Rasmus Andersson. Just a good effort by the Flames off the half clear by the Islanders. And great pass by Huberdeau. We all know that's one of his skills. And then everyone knows wrist shot's where it's at for Matt Coronado. And the Island-born player, or Long Island-born player, has his 20th of the year and had this game tied at 2. It was really all the events of note to talk about in the second period. You had Kyle McLean, another fourth liner, beating Dan Vladar. Just the Flames unable to clear their own zone. Rasmus Andersson kind of had to play a little biased behind his own goal line. Allowed the pass to get by him. That was to Seplikov, and again, just a rebound bouncing off Vladar's pads after a pretty good first save, but just unfortunately couldn't control the rebound. McLean slots it home 3-2. But only 19 seconds later, Jonathan Huberdeau with his 27th goal of the year, assist to Rasmus Andersson and Kevin Ball. Great face-off play. As Morgan Frost wins the draw, it goes back to Ball. Ball goes D to D. And then, not the hardest shot in the world you'll see from Rasmus Andersson, but a shot for a tip. Great hands from Jonathan Huberdeau, his 27th of the year, as I said, tied 3-3. Overtime had a lot of the back and forth that a lot of players and fans seem to hate. But, a great shot from Nazem Kadri kind of used the fact that Frosty was heading off the ice for a change, almost lured, it seemed, the 4 Islanders to sleep a bit. And I thought Nazem Kadri, honestly, had actually dropped the puck over the blue line. I thought we were going to see an offside challenge on the overtime goal. Patrick Waugh says no, and the Flames take home a huge 2 points. After a interesting set of circumstances in the pregame. Because the Flames, when they initially had their optional morning skate, obviously not many players participated, especially in the matinee game with the morning skate. But we heard early in the morning that the Flames were going to be without the services of Joel Farabee. Apparently had picked up some sort of illness, and he'd kind of been actually isolated from the team for the past day and a half that they were in New York. Didn't get to go to Mama Coronado's house for the meatball dinner, apparently. And so that was a known change, and that brought Dryden Hunt into the lineup, which actually I got it wrong. I heard on the Sportsnet broadcast that he was out of the lineup. Put on my Blue Sky that he was out of the lineup. He played today and played reasonably well, what you can expect from a fourth liner in the NHLer. And then just after warm-ups, the news that Mackenzie Weegar will be out of the lineup with a lower body injury. That kind of shook up the defense pairings. And obviously, we've all know that we've watched enough Calgary Flames games. If you're here in chat with me, thank you so much for joining. But we all know how much of the straw that stirs the drink Weegs has been this year for your Calgary Flames. So playing without him, bringing in Braden Bahal, who, as I said, has been one of the better defensemen. I think he shouldn't be the one that's been rotating out recently, but I digress. Bahal has to draw back into the lineup on short notice. And I thought he was okay today. Obviously, it changes how you're mentally prepared. Number one, it's a matinee game, and if you ever talk to a hockey player at any level, you know they hate when their schedule gets disrupted in any way. So having to come in short notice, knowing you're going to log a lot of minutes because you're losing a guy that plays 27 minutes a night, has to be a little bit of aware, not just on the 6 men that are on the ice, but also the coaching staff, knowing they have to manage those minutes. And you're going to see a little bit more of your fourth line and your fourth pairing than you maybe necessarily want to. And I think it was the third pairing was Bean Miramanov today. But excellent job from the Flames with some tough circumstances. You're at the end of a 4-game road swing. You have illness, you have injury, and I've heard through some of my sources that that wasn't the only illness, being Joel Farabee, that was on the team. So not great for the Flames if they're having to dress players who aren't obviously 100%. And as Christine Merrill said, hopefully whatever bug has stayed contained. It's not what I've heard. But we don't know that. That's all word of mouth. We'll hope for the best and kind of expect the worst if you're me. But yeah, the Flames opportunistic in today's affair. And I'm going to have to open up the stat sheet here. It's, oh my goodness, because they were not winning faceoffs today. Obviously, as we know, without the services of Michael Backlund for the medium term. And facing off against the top faceoff team in the league, the Flames only won 34.4% of the draws today. And when you're starting off losing that many draws, when you're having to chase the play, number one, it costs more energy. You have to go retrieve a puck. And number two, you're not able to use set face-off plays, so that changes everything when you're having to shift from your intended play into a more reactive role. And only 3 penalties called in today's game. The Flames go 0 for 2, as Matt and Marek talked about. The Flames only activating at around a 30% rate. When you only get 2 power plays, you kind of need to finish on more of them. But if you only get 2 opportunities, you also don't have that many chances to be more successful in the power play. And the Flames 1 for 1 on the penalty kill, only taking 1 2-minute minor today. Flames and Islanders, obviously, keep in mind, statisticians and the people that record stats in the buildings sometimes aren't truly neutral like they're supposed to be. Flames even in hits, Islanders ahead in block shots, even in hits 9-9, block shots 16-13 in favor of the Islanders. Giveaways actually were dominated by the Islanders. Well, not dominated, they had one more, 17-18, and the Islanders actually led in takeaways in today's affair, which is weird. The Flames generally lead in that stat. So, that's it for our recap in the first period, talking about both the game that was and the, I don't want to call it a circus, but the circumstances before the first period. So let's head on to period number 2. But before we do that, let's talk about the Game Over Network in general. Looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists, broadcasters, and analysts across Canada? If you got a few spare bucks jingling in your jeans, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scenes. I've heard we're even looking at changing our intro and extra screens if you want to get your name on there as an executive producer or something of the like. Check out on the Patreon. There's also exclusive opportunities to give feedback. Hey, if you want to guest on a show, maybe that's something we could throw on the Patreon. But it'll give you extra access to all of us hosts at Game Over Calgary. If you want to go talk smack to Kaya May in Game Over Vancouver, she loves that, especially when you have to remind her that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are going to win in F1 this year. You get the opportunity to do that. There's extra access, exclusive look behind the scenes, Discord benefits, merch discounts, and more if you choose to join. And if you're not able to spare a few dollars, I know life's tough with the orange crazy man down south. But we do have a free tier available if you don't miss out. If you really want to help us out, make sure to click like and subscribe both on Patreon. You'll get access there. But hit like and subscribe down below. And make sure you hit that bell to be notified when we go live. That also helps us out. And hey, if you have friends that are casual Flames fans who want a fun and enjoyable access to an analysis of what goes on here in Flamesland, get them to subscribe. We're really looking to try and get the numbers up, especially on this channel here in Calgary. Try and get into that YouTube monetization. It'll really help us out. So please let anyone who's even tangentially interested in the Flames know what we're doing over here at Game Over Calgary. But if you want to throw us a few dollars, head on over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegameovernetwork for all of these tantalizing wares. So let's talk about what I don't think is the most important part of today's game, and that's the goaltending performance that Dan Vladar turned in. Of course, it's important because Dan Vladar, obviously, the backup for this Flames team, coming in honestly what is probably one of the harder games because both of these teams playing with desperation, knowing that they're battling for that wild card spot. Fortunately for the Flames, they kind of knew what they had to do. The Canucks and Blues both playing, Canucks losing, Blues winning. So the Flames knew what they had to do to stay in that, to use a term I'm stealing from Tommy Wheeldon Jr. of Cavalry FC, to stay in the peloton, to stay in that mix, to try and get into that playoff spots. They knew they had to get at least one, but most probably needed to get two today. And so they managed to do that, and I think a lot of that is on the performance of Dan Vladar. There's a lot of goodies and praise thrown in the way of Dustin Wolf, but I think Dan Vladar was very excellent today. He made a couple of big stops there at the end of the game to keep the Flames in this one. I can think of the big glove stop. I think it was on Anders Lee in the last 14 seconds of the game, but Vladar, other than when he tripped in the first period and kind of had to Dominic Hasek flop his way to keep a pad towards the post, I thought played a very composed game. Obviously, the save percentage isn't where you want it to be because it was a low event game between the Flames and Islanders, and I'm sure no one at all is surprised with how these teams are constructed. But Dan Vladar kept it together, and as we talked about in the first period, he wasn't playing with his best defensive lineup. As we said, without the two-way phenom, well, I wouldn't call him a phenom, but a two-way star that is Mackenzie Weegar, when Rasmus Andersson is then forced to play 27 minutes, and of course that means you'll see more of Kevin Ball. I thought Vladar held things together on the back end for the Flames and allowed at least the opportunity to go win this one. Do you want to see maybe a couple more stops on the 2 fourth line goals to make sure that maybe the Flames are the only team taking points out of this game? Yes. Of course you want to see ideal performances, but if you've ever been a human and understand that humans are incomplete beings, this was what you can expect. And you have to remember, this is the end of a grueling road trip, lots of travel, lots of bus rides, because I know the NHL teams, it's not really feasible to fly around between New York, New Jersey, and the Long Island. But it's a tough one, and there's always things to do in New York. And as much as we want to think, hockey players, they're just there to play hockey. No, you're a human being. You're going to do things in New York. Especially if you're one of the guys that's from upstate New York. Because I think it's now Frosty Coronado who are our New York-based Flames, if I look at the roster. And I'm sure they were probably having to be tour guides for a little bit of that. Yeah, Green Lawn, New York, close to Long Island. Rooney out of Kenton, Mass, but played for the Rangers. He probably had to do a little bit of that as well. And Morgan Frost, he's out of Aurora, Ontario. Why was it Farabee then? Yeah, Farabee's out of Syracuse, New York. It was the other player we got in that Philly deal. I had my places of birth mixed up. So yeah, had to go and do a little bit while you're in New York. So it's a tough road swing, and maybe some 24-hour flus after the success against the Rangers. But anyways, Vladar stood on his head. Very excellent performance from the backup goaltender. Even if people would probably have rather seen Dustin Wolf get another opportunity. But Vladar has been solid. Like, I will say, I will eat some crow here. I didn't think Dan Vladar would be closing the season out with the Flames. But obviously he has the belief of Craig Conroy and the coaching staff that, hey, he's a important part of this team if we want to make a push down the stretch drive here. So while we have this conversation about Dan Vladar, let's also take a look in at the Western Conference standings. So not much has changed in the Pacific. The Vegas Golden Knights now at the top, but the Kings have surged past the Edmonton Oilers and have a game in hand. Oilers downfall without Connor and Leon. I'm here for it. However, I don't think the Flames will be able to get up to that 85 game or 85 point mark that the Oilers have. So I think those three are kind of slotted in. It's where the Kings, who are surging, they've won 2 in a row and are 7-2-1 in their last 10. The Oilers, as I said, now without their 2 superstars, we'll see where that team falls to at the end of the day. And then in the Central, the Jets, Stars, and Avalanche, they're kind of set in stone where they're at. The Wild kind of barking at the heels of those Avs. We'll have to wait and see on that one. However, the Avs do have a better points percentage, as a lot of the Wild's points have come from the overtime loss category. So, as I mentioned, the Wild, they're solidly in that first wild card. I don't think the Flames are catching them with 85 points. But then it comes to the 4-horse race that is the wild card, and the St. Louis Blues are hotter than hot. They're 7-2-1 and on a 5-game win streak. But the Flames on a 3-game win streak of their own with 2 games in hand. The Blues at 79 points. The Flames with only 71 games played, the most of any team in the conference. And then there's the Flames at 77 points and 69 games played. And the Flames, however, are bolstered, you have to remember, by that overtime win percentage. Or overtime points percentage. The Flames with 11 overtime points to the Blues with only 7. Leading to that ROW number being higher. The Canucks, they trail behind the Flames now by a single point, and the Flames do have a game in hand on the Canucks. course, then there's the Utah Hockey Club. They are down, even on games played, but down 4 points to the Flames. I think they've kind of fallen off here recently, and I don't think we really need to consider them in the wild card race, but it's the NHL. We have to remember hockey is the North American, or is the biggest North American sport with the highest percentage chance, or highest percentage of the results attributed to luck. Can't remember where I saw that, but I remember that from before the pandemic. So Utah not statistically eliminated, so you have to consider them still in the picture. So, with that all said and done, let's head to period number 3. As I do this ad read, we are looking for you to generate your questions. I've got chat up here. I'm reading what you've got to say. If you have any questions for me, throw them on into chat, and we will get to them as we continue into overtime after this third period. If you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video, click subscribe on our channel, and make sure you hit the notification bell so you're alerted to when we do go live. I know it said that this stream was going to be 45 minutes later. You never know how these afternoon games are going to go in terms of time. We do our best. Hey, and if you're listening on the podcast, hello. Come join us live in chat. We go live after every Calgary Flames game on the home or on the road here on Game Over Calgary. So you can head on over to YouTube and search that in there, and hey, join us live. But if you are listening to the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It super duper helps with the algorithm. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can find the network on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok and Twitter at GameOverNHL, on Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn at Game Over Network. I'm no longer on X. You can't find me there, but you can find me on Blue Sky at conradkrausert.bsky.social. We're going to have some more interesting stuff coming up from me personally on Blue Sky. So keep your eyes peeled over there. And also find us at thegameovernetwork.com, where you can sign up for our upcoming newsletter. So period number 3, I'm obviously going to talk about the play of the Flames forwards, and I'm mostly going to narrow that down to Matt Coronado and Jonathan Huberdeau. Oh boy, have the line changes really changed how this Flames squad performs. Because if we look at how the Flames are lining up now, it's changed. Like, you had to do something after that disappointment in Toronto. And it's certainly provided a little bit of a different look. And it adds an interesting wrinkle, I think, to how opposing teams have to look at the Flames. Because when it was Huberdeau, Kadri, and player X, whether that was Zari, Coronado, Pospisil, who have you, you could really load up your defensive players. You could really line match heavily onto that top line. You can't do that with how this lineup is right now. Because that Zari, Kadri, Pospisil line has a lot of pop, has a lot of energy coming from Zari. Obviously, Nazem Kadri has had a heck of a season. Looks like he's on pace for another 30-goal year. And then you have Martin Pospisil, who comes in with a bull with many concussions in a china shop. So do you have to throw your top defensive unit out against them? Or do you look at that line of Morgan Frost, Matt Coronado, and Jonathan Huberdeau, obviously scoring all 3 of the regulation time goals in this game? Do you have to say, I really need my third line, defensive line against those guys? And then you do have this third line that's, for today, was kind of a bit of a mismatch. Obviously missing Joel Farabee. But Sharangovich, Hunt, and Coleman, obviously you got 2 centers on there. You have Hunt and Coleman, who are absolute dogs going into the corner and battling. And a guy in Igor Sharangovich, who, when he's hot, and can fire that puck with the best of them. And then you have one of my favorite lines of this team in Lomberg, Rooney, and Klapka. Because as I talked with Peter Klein, who I think is coming back from his Japan vacation fairly shortly, Ryan Lomberg and Adam Klapka remind me of prime NXT Enzo and Big Cass, where Ryan Lomberg is going to be going in there. He's going to be the mouth on the bench, as Kelly Rudy pointed him out today, at his gift of the gab going pretty much all game. And then if you're messing with Ryan Lomberg, then you have this 6'8" Adam Klapka just looming, waiting for you to make a mistake. Oh, and Kevin Rooney's there too. So I really like the way this lineup is. It's a more balanced lineup than I think we've seen a lot of the year for these Calgary Flames. Obviously, things will change when Michael Backlund comes back into the lineup. Does that mean you bump Igor Sharangovich into where Dryden Hunt's currently slotted in? Does that mean you're going to send down Dryden Hunt at that time and keep Klapka up on that fourth line and play Sharangovich on his off wing? I don't know. I'm not coaching this team, but for now, I'm very happy with how the four lines are. Now let's head to the D. Obviously, as I said today, was a little bit of a mismatch where it was Anderson, Ball, Maramanov, Bean, Hanley, Pahal. Considering you had a scratch 30 minutes before face-off, I'm okay with where that was. Is it better when we have the choice of running Daniil Maramanov, Braden Pahal, or who else is on, or Ilya Solovyov on nights where we want to? Yeah, 100%. I'm not going to say that this lineup is better without Mackenzie Weegar, because it is not. But is it okay? Am I necessarily panicking as much as I probably was going into this after watching? No, I think it was fine. And when you're missing your number one defenseman and you can think your back end is doing fine, I think you're not necessarily happy with that, but you're not as angry with it as I think many fans could be. That will take us to the end of our third period. We will head on into overtime now, and don't see that many questions here in chat, but hey, it's an afternoon game. You might be watching the other games in Hockey Night in Canada or preparing dinner. I don't blame you. I think I'm making butter chicken for dinner. Good choice. But before we go into our overtime, where I'm hoping that some of you guys have questions for me, whether that's about Calgary Flames, whether it was about the disappointment of Soccer Canada against Mexico, how we're going to perform against the U.S. shortly in the third place game, whether it's Cavalry FC's upcoming season, and obviously shout out to Ali Musi of Cavalry FC getting to play 79 minutes for Somalia in World Cup qualifying. Good job, Moose. But before we go to that, we got one last ad read, and we got one last little video here. What better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of a retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, like I've got 2 over there that are delayed Christmas presents because I just haven't seen people of that established design, or whether you want to wear your love for goalies like Dan Vladar and Dustin Wolf with our live and die by the goalie design, or hey, if you need a coffee mug or a tea mug to get you through the next little blip on the radar screen that's apparently coming in our weather, don't. Anyways, you can grab a mug to keep your warm beverages, and I think we even got toques that have the network logo on them. All this is designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg, who's now living in Thailand, so he doesn't have need for that mug or the toque. But scan that QR code down the bottom of the screen, and you'll head on over to our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping this amazing community. I do have to say, to everyone who has joined us so far this year, I saw we had Matt C. in chat, KQ, Johnny Goudreau Forever, and Christine Merrill. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned into the chats. I know we're starting to get to the end of the season and the playoff drive. I just wanted to say thank you once again to everyone who's joined us on this show. Whether it's our hosts, whether that's Peter Klein, know that he's no longer with us, whether that's Matt DeMille, Anand Unnithan, whether that's Ruby and Marek. Thank you to all of our hosts, but thank you so much to everyone who has believed in this resurgence, rebirth of Game Over Calgary, and thank you so much for helping us out this season. Not seeing any questions in chat. So I am going to do a little bit of a rundown to the Wranglers. And let's see. Let's say that the Flames do have an illness that goes through the team. As much as I'm hoping that we get whatever it is confined. Who's kind of the next guy up? I don't think it's Martin Ferk. He's on a one-way deal, if I recall correctly. Despite the fact that he leads the team in points. He can probably forget about his call-up, potentially. See, Ferk, forget about it. Anyways, Rory Cairns, you'll probably see him if there's another center injury. He's kind of fallen off a little bit, as have a lot of the Wranglers, let's be honest. I'd love to see William Stromgren get a call-up. I think he is a underrated prospect in this Flames system. Sam Morton, Clark Bishop, Jeremy Poirier. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see Poirier this season, and has kind of a... I don't want to say it's regressed. He's had a little bit of a slip back as a -5, but has been put into some more difficult situations this year than I think you would have necessarily believed. Hunter Brustevich, also not great in the plus-minus category, but I think he has taken a few steps forward this year. I don't think we see him this year. I think you might see him start to rotate in next year. Asprot. Sam Honzek, back healthy. He's played 41 games this year. Nice to see him starting to heat up a little bit. But I think that's kind of as deep as we're going to go on that one as our Wranglers deep dive. Obviously, it's been a little tough recently. I think they dropped a game to Coachella a few days ago. Let's look at that calendar view, as I think... No, I have to go to the AHL website to get the most recent results. Isn't that always lovely when you have to do that? Oh no, they beat Coachella Valley by a score of 3-1. They play again tomorrow at the Dome. Go on down, support your Wranglers. Go listen to Lyle Peterman, their public address announcer, as they look to surge towards the playoffs. They did drop a couple to Abbey and split the series with the Moose the previous weekend. But go down, support your Wranglers. Go see what's going on there. Oh, I had the wrong screen up for this whole period. Let's
Warning, incoming game.
Wouldn't be a show for me without doing that at least once. But I think that's it. That's all. Go and watch some more hockey as Hockey Night in Canada is on your television screens. We have some other brilliant hosts as well coming on with some games later today. Who's doing the Montreal game? Because I know they're one of the late games. Oh, is that today? Oh, no. Oh, it's Kay is doing this Avs game. So you can go watch a fan of both teams as the Montreal Canadiens take on the Avalanche with AJ Hefele joining Kay out there in the land of Montreal. I know Ottawa also plays in the late game. I think they're actually live right now. It will be Damien hosting that one today. And if you want to watch Toronto's, Dominic is going to be handling the hosting duties out there. Oh, and yeah, there's the Kraken, but I don't think we have a host. Or no, it's Graham that will be hosting Game Over Edmonton today. But that's it for Game Over Calgary today. My name's Conrad Krausert, and if you want more Game Over, we've got it for you. Anand will be hosting, and we will see you then. Flames Kraken on Tuesday. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday.